welcome to this edition of Where There's a Need, There's a Lion. For those who may not know, on June 7th, 2017, Lions turns 100 years old. Look pretty good, huh? So Lions around the world will be celebrating on that day. We're here today to talk to one of our partners. Mass Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired is a very important partner with Lions because we have a common denominator in that Helen Keller had something to do with both of us. Helen Keller is the reason why Lions are Knights of the Blind, and Helen Keller also sat on the board, the original board of the Mass Association for the Blind, which I guess was not called that at the time, but developed into that. Kyle, you just went, wow, you didn't realize that?
I knew that Helen has obviously a tremendous history and has been involved with the early incarceration or inception of MADV and many other organizations too. And we're proud to have that history and that connection to her and others who had the vision to really support and push organizations to work with adults who are experiencing vision loss in addition to children. Right.
So, and that's where what makes you a little bit different, because you focus mainly on the adults. Am I correct?
Most of our programming to date is working with folks who are 18 years of age or older.
Okay, and there are other organizations like Perkins and others who also include the youth as well. Mm-hmm. So your organization was founded in 1903, so you're older than we are. You're 114 years old. We were founded in 1917, so that's okay. The mission, as I think you kind of said a little bit, is to work with adults that have a vision loss to help eliminate the barriers and create opportunities for them. So in other words, if I'm understanding that correctly, it's to help them live within their world. Am I right?
Yeah.
To put it simply. So what is the real need? Maybe you can help talk about that, what the real need is.
Well, I think we have an aging population, and we have a lot of people who are staying in their home longer and want to be staying in their home. Mm-hmm. And with the aging population comes a lot of these diseases that's affecting vision, and people are having more trouble being able to function.
Right,
so like you said, the goal is to get people, keep them safe, keep them living in their home, keep them independent and involved in their life.
Right. So there was a statistic, I can't even say the word, on your website that said the number of seniors with low vision is expected to double by 2030. That's kind of scary. That's only, 13 years away? It's not that far away. Because of diseases like glaucoma and cataracts and diabetic retinopathy, which is probably huge because so many people have diabetes now, and macular degeneration, which is known to have a relationship to aging anyway. So that being said, do you know approximately how many elders might be in Massachusetts that might have a need? It may not. I think we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably well over 100,000 seniors living in Massachusetts. MADV as an organization, we work with just over 1,400 individuals who are experiencing vision loss every year through all of our programs.
Okay, so the 100,000 number that you're talking about, those are people who have serious sight loss, and they can't receive funding through the state funding resources. Because they're not legally blind. So maybe, and I don't think we talked about this, but and I hate to put you on the spot, but what is legally blind versus?
Yep. So to be declared legally blind, you have to have a certain amount of vision loss, which is 2,200 or worse.
That sounds high.
Right, or if you have a certain degree of peripheral vision loss. So if you only have so much vision available.
Yep.
So you're right, it leaves this big
huge gap
of people that fall anywhere underneath that.
Wow, that is. And obviously makes it very difficult for them to be independent because they don't have the resources to help them become independent. So what in fact is low vision? Because we did talk a little bit about that, low vision itself.
Yep, so it's vision that can't be corrected.
Okay.
With glasses or with surgery, and they're having trouble functioning. They can't do the things they need to do in their day because the vision loss is interfering with that.
Wow.
And it's interesting, we talk a lot about at work, I think a lot of folks have the perception of someone who's blind as being totally blind. In reality, that's less than 5% of the folks who are experiencing vision loss have absolutely no sight or no light perception.
Okay.
So you have this 95% of folks who have this really wide range of vision loss. It could be someone who has a little bit of light recognition,
Right.
or it could be someone like myself who has a little bit more of a central vision, but very, very narrow peripheral vision and tunnel vision. So it's a really wide spectrum of folks who are out there.
It's interesting you say that because Jen, and for those who don't know who I'm talking about, you will later, was at a meeting the other night that I was at, and she was saying the eye that's good, if you want to call it that, everything she sees is like it's underwater. Everything's just like blurry and it's like bubbling water, and it just kind of obscures everything that she really is looking at out of that eye. So that's kind of which I guess was what you're saying. So you have these vision rehabilitation services, because everybody thinks of rehabilitation more physical versus, well, I guess in some ways it's physical too, but body-wise, your muscles and stuff. So in this case, it's vision. And so you're an occupational therapist, and I don't think I even said your name at the beginning, and I apologize for that. So this is Kimberly Tebow. I knew I was going to thank you because I was going to say it wrong. So you're an occupational therapist with MAPV.
Yes.
So you can probably explain better than all of us what the rehab services are.
So we have occupational therapists who provide the vision rehab services throughout the entire state of Massachusetts. We work with people with a range of vision loss. So we do also work with people who are legally blind, and we do services in the home. And the goal is addressing what is it that you want to be doing or need to be doing, and how can we find a strategy or device that will help you maximize your remaining vision or help you compensate that so that you can keep engaging in that activity. So it's working as a team with the person to figure out what are you having trouble with, and let's figure out a way around it.
So now so when you go into a home, do you evaluate the home as well as the person?
Yep. So we're addressing home safety, because the goal is we want people to be staying in their home as long as possible, in a safe environment. So we do home safety assessments. I think lighting is the most important thing we end up addressing.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting. I never even really thought about that.
Yeah. And in part of being the OT too, we can then figure out if there are other needs other services they could benefit from that we can't provide. But all of the treatment is individualized.
Okay.
So we're really talking with you about what are you having difficulty with and what can we do to help.
Now, can you refer them to other service programs that are outside of your own sphere of?
Yeah, like if someone's having a lot of mobility issues, we can refer them. We have orientation mobility services within MAPV, so we can refer so they can get more training of how do I get around when I don't see so well.
I guess and this is the way I asked it, sorry. Outside of MAPV, are you able to refer people outside of MAPV if you don't have the service capability within the organization itself?
Yeah, and I think it depends on what they need. Sometimes it might need that they need to see an actual low vision doctor, and we can help find one in their area, or if they are legally blind, it's working with the Commission for the Blind of, what device might help them that they can help fund. So we are working with outside organizations.
And we receive a tremendous amount of referrals from our allies who are doing similar work, and we refer to them as well, depending on what the program services and needs are for each individual person.
So I'm sure that technology has played a huge role in helping the blind and visually impaired, because with all this talking devices and all of that has made a huge changed all of our lives, I guess. But especially someone who has lost it all or in part that sense of being able to see. So
Yeah, I think technology's changed, and it changes quickly, and it has helped open up a lot of doors for people who have vision impairments. And it could be something as simple as just magnifiers to using their cell phone, their computer, their tablet, and now there's so many ways of making things talk to you. You've been able to talk to it. I mean, I think the most popular thing everyone talks about now is Alexa, and just be able to ask her, what's the weather?
I forgot about that. I forgot about that. That's right.
So there is a lot more incorporation of technology that we're working on with this population and training them, so that they can now email with their family
Right,
again
right.
and FaceTime with their grandchildren.
Which is huge. I
And
mean,
that-
that might make a huge difference in their lives.
And I think Alexa's a great example of where we're trying to get to with technology. So it's just not technology that's specific for folks who are experiencing vision loss, but all these, what we call kind of universal technology, where it's actually developed for everyone in mind, but it really helps to support folks who are blind and visually impaired as well. We have a coworker who hasn't listened to music in probably 20 years, and now she's able to ask Alexa, play me this song, and it's opened up all
How wonderful
all
is
these
that?
resources. And the assistive technology program, it is our newest program. We received some generous funding through the Mass Council on Aging, so it's a partnership with them as
nice.
well as the Mass Commission. So we now have 2 technology centers that we've opened up, one in Brookline, Massachusetts, one in Worcester, and then we're partnering and kind of affiliated with one in Harwich that's housed in the library, and one in Franklin as well. And it's essentially folks can come in and receive training on about 5 kind of types of assistive technology, and it's one-to-one, as Kim mentioned, individualized, customized training. Could be anything from using an iPhone, an iPad, or closed caption TV like a CCTV.
Wow.
So
Yep.
it's really talking about kind of what's been, I think, the ongoing, like CCTVs have been around forever,
Right.
but also looking at this newer technology around iPads, and all with the interest of really opening up communication and breaking down isolation. And we see that
Right.
it happens every day once folks get past that fear, and it's a huge fear, which we recognize. Like
course.
using a smartphone, quote unquote, it's tough, so it's not only about getting the technology in people's hands, but it's also training them to be able to use that technology
So
as
have you
well.
thought about coming to Blue River with that?
We
have
would-
a council on aging.
We would love to partner with the Lions Club here and
I
any
am
other folks
sure
who
that I
are-
could get you into the senior center to talk.
That would be, as we are scaling up. I mean, right now we're in the rollout phase. They've been around for both open for about 4 or 5 months, and we've already met our yearly goals in terms of folks who we're
Wonderful.
working with just in 5 months, which to us demonstrates the tremendous need
I'm sure.
and the desire and the demand for assistive technology programs like this,
yeah.
as well as information technology.
Well, remind me after this. I will make sure that we connect you with our senior center.
Certainly will.
So Sean, Sean, did I just call you Sean? I'm sorry. I called you Sean because in the back of my mind, while you were talking, I was thinking of a YouTube video that I was watching. He was doing some sort of a speech down the Cape. And he was talking about all the different ways of how technology works. And while you were talking, I was thinking of that speech. But that's how Sean.
He's older, but a little bit more better looking, and has a full head of hair too.
And has an accent.
Yes, it's very appealing.
Actually, he was the first one I met was Sean. So
Excellent.
that's probably the other reason why. So Kyle, you lead the volunteer part, volunteer in support services. Did I get that? Okay. So you can probably help talk a little bit more in the next segment about what that all means. Because we're going to just take a quick break and show a couple of clips of how these little changes in people's lives. I think one of them has to do with the coffee maker, and the other one has to do with the computer. I finally said computer this time. And how just little subtle changes can make a difference in the life of somebody who is visually impaired.
Life tips for those living with vision loss. Here are shortcuts to living confidently.
So I kept my finger at the top of the cup, and that is trickier because eventually you do burn your finger. For a blind coffee drinker, it's so much easier. You don't have any measuring. 1, 2, 3, voila, you have a cup of coffee.
If you would like to be a volunteer, call 888-613-2777. Life tips for those living with vision loss. Here are shortcuts to living confidently.
Control, there's certain keys that I use all the time, so much easier to find quickly if you have a locator dot on the
Open in Dash Outlook, inbox Dash Imogen at Comcast.
I have one on Alt, another one on Control. I think it's one of the best things. Audio technology is one of the very best things that has come for blind and visually impaired.
If you would like to be a volunteer, call 888-613-2777.
Well, I hope you found those clips interesting. I know I did. I actually went through the MABV site to find those clips. I wanted things that people could associate with. It was pretty easy. So Kyle, let's talk a little bit about the vision loss counseling and the support groups and the volunteering that MABV depends on and their clients depend on. So.
Certainly. So, our overarching goal is really to provide folks with skills and support to live as independent and confident lives as possible while experiencing vision loss. And I think the skill building piece was highlighted in the great work that Kim and the OTs do and our orientation mobility specialists. But we also recognize that, there are some things that you need to supplement with the skill building. So that's where the support piece comes in. And, our one-to-one volunteer program, our low vision peer support groups, as well as our adjustment counseling kind of provides that support piece to what we're trying to do.
So I know that when people, I shouldn't say I know that because I luckily have never lost my vision, been in talking to other people. It can be very scary to not be able to see, especially if in many cases these people probably have had a period of time in their life, am I correct, that they have been able to see? And now suddenly they're not able to see those things to them as part of their everyday life. So is that where the counseling piece comes in? Or?
It does. I mean, we work with such a wide range of folks that may be, 85 years of age and have experienced sight their entire life, or someone like myself who, I'm in my late 20s maybe, and, who have progressively degenerative eye disease, so I'm losing a little bit over time, and then some folks may have never experienced sight. So it's a wide spectrum of folks, and I think we recognize that wherever you are in that evolution, there's always support that you need. And some of it may come through the support group model, where you're in a room with 10 to 20 folks who are experiencing very similar situations that you are, and that may be frustration, anger, or simply, how do I use my cell phone? So it's really nice to be in that supportive group environment, to have a lot of folks around you to give advice and support. But we also know that the one-to-one piece is just as beneficial, myself included. I went to a therapist for a number of years, really to kind of unwind the anger that I was experiencing with my vision loss and things that I had to stop doing. And both of those models help. So over the past year or two, we've been focusing more on, or just as much on, as the individual counseling as well. And the beauty of it is that most, if not all, of the therapists, the adjustment counselors, have low vision or some sort of vision loss themselves. So they're both looking at it from a personal perspective, as well as a professional perspective, being a licensed professional counselor as well.
That is what I found fascinating the other night when I went to Salem. And when I say Salem, I'm talking about the Salem Lions Club. They actually had MABV at their club the other night and invited a few of the other local clubs to join them. As Jen Buchanan, who also happens to be a Lion, was there. And I just forgot the name of the person that came.
I think my coworker Linda was there. Who works in our development team.
So she was there, and there was another older woman there who actually runs one of the peer groups. And when we were talking, they were talking about the fact that most of these groups, not necessarily the counseling, but the peer groups, sounds like it. Peer groups mean somebody that's equal to you. That the people in these groups that are running them are people with low vision. And it just was kind of fascinating to me, but it actually makes sense when you think about it, because how can I walk into a group of people that are visually impaired in some fashion, whether it's being nearly blind or just, whatever the degree, and be able to have a conversation with them, because I have not had that experience. I really have, I can sympathize with them, and I can maybe, in my mind, think I'm suggesting something that might be helpful, but it may not be, because in their world, that's not necessarily very helpful. So it certainly makes sense to have people that are their equals.
It's a powerful dynamic to have.
Yes.
And it's not saying one is better than the other, but it means a lot when particularly someone walks into a group in a meeting for the first time, to know that the person sitting next to them is not only experiencing similar situations as they are, but also the person, what we call the coordinator, has been or is currently experiencing those same frustrations and challenges. And it's a wonderful dynamic, and we try to honor that peer-led support group piece as much as we can.
I can see where it's important, more so even after having talked to them about that. So on the volunteer side, what did I do? I put something on top of my papers here. On the volunteer side, I know that you're always looking for people to help. And that could be going into someone's home and possibly reading them the mail, or maybe writing letters for them if that's what they need, taking them out food shopping, whatever the need happens to be. So do you know how many currently how many clients you might have in that program?
So we right now are working with about 247 volunteers throughout in our Greater Boston office, roughly another 50 in our Worcester office, so well over 300 volunteers.
And you have a waiting list, I understand.
Yep, and then in terms of folks who we're working with, so those 247 volunteers are working with roughly 185 what we call consumers, so individuals who are experiencing vision loss. The gap in difference there is that a lot of consumers have more than one volunteer. So and the program has grown almost double in the past 2 years, which not surprisingly coincides with when Jen started coordinating the program.
Yes.
All that great work said, you know, we do have right now about 107, 103 people on our waiting list. So the demand is high, partly because it's a great program, partly because folks are really benefiting, again, from that support side.
Yeah.
Could be everything from, you know, the traditional activities, and it is mostly activity based. So as you mentioned, things like going grocery shopping, reading your mail, writing out checks, maybe filing your paperwork. We're doing more and more around folks who want to run or walk for health reasons. We are supporting folks who want to go to the gym. You know, we got a call about a year or two ago from a gentleman who lost his sight tragically overnight. Loved going to the gym, couldn't go anymore because he couldn't physically see how to get around to the gym, but also couldn't see, you know, the buttons and all that on the equipment. So it was the first time.
The things we take for granted.
We'd never done it before, and we said, hey, if that's something that you really want to do and your sight is the only barrier for you not to continue doing that, let's figure out how to get you a volunteer. We worked with the gym, who was very supportive, put up some flyers, and he's now going to the gym, I think, twice a week.
Wow. So Jen is the person that we were talking about. She is a member of our Peabody Lions Club, and she's next year going to be president of that Lions Club. Very tickled. That club also has another blind young lady, Kayla. I don't know if you know Kayla?
I do, yes.
And Kayla, when you were just talking about the gym, I just remembered her telling me a story about how she has this desire to start a gym for people that are blind and visually impaired. I remember her having that conversation with her probably about a year ago, which is a pretty ambitious idea, but you know what? When you think about it, there probably is a bigger need than we even realize. And I would love to see her be able to get that. So maybe that's something we can work on together. So Jen actually has spoken in front of a number of our Lions groups, and she came to one of our advisory meetings, which is like just all the Lions coming together for a meeting, back in February. And there was a speaker that was supposed to come that day, and they weren't able to come. So she, at very last minute, I have to say, got up in front of everyone and told her story, and told how she was a sighted person that lost her sight, it was only like 6 or 7 years ago, very recent, and everything she went through. You know, all the anger, you know, like you said, and the loss, and almost like she had lost a loved one. In this case, the loved one was herself. And how she was able to get herself back on track with the help of MAVI, and how this whole volunteer program is like a godsend to her. She loves being able to help people. And she got a standing ovation. I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. So it is an amazing story to know how much just helping somebody else in what we consider something maybe small, you know, just a small, it makes such a difference in their lives.
We talk a lot about, you know, the volunteers get as much out of the volunteer program as the folks who they're working with, because the experience is that rich. And friendships, lifelong friendships are created from that program. Folks often get mad when we refer to, oh, you're a consumer or you're a volunteer. They're like, no, they're my friend now. They get invited to family weddings and all these special events.
Oh,
and
how cool is that?
Part of the uniqueness of our program is it's incredibly flexible, right? So it's, you know, we ask for a commitment of a couple hours, maybe once a week, once a month. If you can only do, you know, once every other week, we'll work with that.
Yeah.
And we try to match folks in their home or in their neighborhood, and based on what tasks and activities they're interested in. So it's really flexible in that way, particularly for folks nowadays who have either very busy work schedules or family schedules, that you're able to kind of plan around that. And we also have a family volunteer component now, in which someone under the age of 18 can volunteer with their adult caregiver.
You mentioned that the other night. Yes, somebody asked that question.
You know, the research shows that the earlier on and the younger that you get volunteers engaged, the more likely they are to continue volunteering through their life. So it's a really great opportunity
That's wonderful.
to have a young person take a leadership role. And if they're someone who's reading mail, the goal is for them to read as much of the mail as possible, but have their parent there just to support them.
Isn't that amazing?
And it's amazing to see it play out.
Well, and you know how they came up in the meeting the other night? One of the lines from Salem, actually the president of the club, has 2 grandchildren who were probably in their teens, mid-teens, and she asked the question, and they said, they asked her how old they were, and she told them, and she goes, as long as there's an adult with them, and she said, I can see them doing this. So you may have 2 new volunteers
Let's sign
with
them up. Let's sign them up.
And I have to tell you, I only met Jen last year, I think, or maybe the year before, I don't remember now. She has, in her own way, made a very big difference in my life. And I am very impressed with what she has done with her life. And I know that a lot of that has to do with MAVV and the support that she gets from her club and from everyone around her, which I think is what we all need to remember. And I am hoping next year when I step down, as I step down from being district governor, that I will hopefully maybe be able to volunteer with MAVV, because I think it's important.
We'd love for you to volunteer in our brand new Billerica Technology Center.
There we go. I like that even better. It's local. Do you have anything else that you want to say? We only have like a minute or two to throw something out there.
The only thing being is we are incredibly grateful and really enjoy the partnership that we have with all the Lions clubs. You know, I think as we were talking earlier about breaking down those silos and how do we all support each other's work and complement it. And I think there's ways in which we can grow and strengthen all of our programs by working together. So whether it's the Concord Lions group or the Boston Lions group or the PB, the Billerica, we are very, very excited to have this partnership and really leverage both of our resources and our hearts to support folks who are experiencing vision loss. So thank you for also your leadership
welcome.
in doing that as well.
Very, very pleased. I'm very pleased where this is going. So if anybody wants to learn more about the organization, it's mavv.org, am I correct? And there's lots of information out there. There's some more small clips like we have shown on this program. And there's also some more information on YouTube for those who like to watch clips on YouTube. I have to say that Sean's speech down the Cape was very interesting. So I didn't get to see it all the way to the end, so you have to go back in and look at it. But thank you again for being here today. And I will meet you soon over at the Council on Aging at Billerica. And we'll do something over there together. How's that?
Sounds great.
Thank you so much.